I'd like to welcome all the members and their guests and the exhibitors to what now looks like, for the AACC at least, the largest number of scientific registrants, the largest number of scientific papers, and the largest number of exhibitors that we've ever had at a national meeting. And I surely would like to welcome our colleagues from Canada, from the Canadian Society of Clinical Chemists, which are co-sponsoring this meeting with us.
We will have more from Dr. Jack Laytonson, President of the American Association for Clinical Chemistry, plus a full preview of day one of the show here in Chicago. All that and more coming up next on Convention News Television.
The process of evolution requires gradual change for the better. That change is crafted by imagination and the design of the right tool for the task. At first primitive, then more advanced. Medical technology advances by the same process. And at Beckman, we embrace the spirit of evolution by design. Gradual change for the better. And we invite you to share our view, a new view. Since the beginning, we listened. We responded. We anticipated. We planned and continue to plan, because at Beckman, we take your view seriously.
CNNTV presents the American Association for Clinical Chemistry and the Canadian Society of Clinical Chemists Convention News, brought to you by Roche Diagnostic Systems, Technicon Instruments Corporation, the DuPont Company, and by Beckman Instruments Incorporated.
Hello everybody, I'm Kurt Anderson. I'd like to welcome you to the 1986 joint meeting of the American Association for Clinical Chemistry and the Canadian Society for Clinical Chemists here in Chicago, Illinois. Beautiful weather, couldn't be better. In fact, only a little bit of rain is expected in the next couple of days, but all is in readiness for this show to get underway. Of course, the majority of the show will take place here at Chicago's gigantic McCormick Center off Lake Michigan. For the past 2 weeks, workmen have been busy getting ready for this tremendous show to begin.
We've moved it in about 4 days. You've had about 400 workers here between freight handlers, carpenters, and so forth, installing the exhibits.
What was it going to take to break it down again once it's
About the same numbers. We will get the show out of here within 2 days.
within 2 days? So it's almost like, I mean, it's going to look like a Disneyland. You know, I mean, everything is so clean and so precise and so measured, yet there's a lot of behind-the-scenes work going on.
It's very unique. You come in here the first day and the floor is actually clean, and then you see the servicemen marking the floor and see the show grow from there, from actually nothing to within 3 days, an entire exhibit, and then the reverse on the outbound.
The biggest problem, what has been the biggest problem in terms of putting this show or a show like this together?
We really haven't had any problems. It's been running very smoothly, and that's based upon organization. If everybody works together and the planning comes, then you have a successful show. And we've been planning this out for about a year now with Debbie Woodcock and Ed Ruffing, and it shows. Everybody seems very, very happy, and the show looks great.
Gillitson, by the way, is in charge of the Chicago-based crew, but the man actually responsible for putting this whole thing together is the association's own Ed Ruffing.
First show that we did, Schrago Associates did, was down in Houston, Texas at the Astro Hall.
Was it as large as this show today?
Well, the hall certainly was, but we had about 199 booths. We had kind of wide aisles, and we only had about 1,200 registration at that time. We really had no problem getting people in and out. We could have run Buffalo through without hitting them.
Buffalo through the aisles. In 10 years, though, I guess a lot of things have changed, including the cost of putting on something like this. What have been the most significant changes during the last 10 years?
Well, I think the growth that we have here is primarily due to the technology. The instrumentation available to the clinical chemist and his abilities to use it and design it and develop it have just progressed tremendously. I have right now over 700,000 pounds that have come in here for the 700 booths that we have here. And the technology has grown. And consequently, the need for this has grown in almost every hospital and laboratory across the country.
When you were in the service, what branch were you in?
I was a medic in the Coast Guard.
Okay, so your medic's experience in the Coast Guard has served you well in terms of putting all this stuff together, especially in terms of huge operations.
Yes, in some respects.
And when we come back, we'll have greetings from the association's president, as well as his Canadian counterpart. Stay tuned.
Innovation, quality, reliability. A new dimension has arrived. The Dimension Clinical Chemistry System from DuPont. Dimension, a low operating cost workhorse analyzer with random access to 37 resident tests and stat capability. Test costs for Dimension are competitive with comparable systems, and its broad test menu of the most frequently ordered tests means fewer instruments are needed in your laboratory. Automated computer-assisted features mean ease of use. In addition, Dimension has walk-away capability and the throughput to get results quickly. Dimension has the flexibility to meet your laboratory needs. There's the Dimension 380, 380E, and the 760. Yes, a new dimension has arrived from DuPont. See Dimension 86 live TV talk show from the DuPont exhibits.
Dr. Jack H. Ladenson is halfway through his term in office as president of the American Association for Clinical Chemistry. We talked with him about that, as well as this year's show.
We have three national meetings. This one, which of course is our largest, and we have two other smaller meetings. One is called the Arnold O. Beckman Conference in Clinical Chemistry, and the other the Oak Ridge Conference on Advanced Analytical Concepts. The Beckman Conference was held in January, the Oak Ridge Conference was held in April, and they will be in the same months next year. This year, for the first time, we will be publishing the proceedings of the Arnold O. Beckman Conference in the journal Clinical Chemistry, and this will go free then to all members and subscribers of the journal.
You know, with the growth in membership, I guess there are a lot of new members, and of course, anytime you have new members, there may be some of the publications that these members aren't aware of.
Well, yeah, we have, our primary publication is the journal Clinical Chemistry, and besides having the special edition of the Beckman Proceedings this year, they are planning next year to have various special features and also to be publishing the proceedings of various other meetings besides our national meeting. The plans for this are being worked out. Our largest circulation publication, Clinical Chemistry News, which reaches about 26,000 people, is really coming along and improving almost every issue. And we're now really looking at the goals and objectives that we wish from this publication so that we can better serve the membership. We are publishing 6 new books this year, and we now have a book committee which is evaluating the best manner to select and solicit new books. And this year we have put out 1 issue so far of AACC newsletter. The second issue will be out in October, and any members who have information they'd like to be placed in that newsletter should have it to Ted Peters, our secretary, by September 15th.
Jack, also with the growing importance of health care this year, what is the relationship of the clinical chemists with other associations?
I think quite well. Examples of this would be the National Committee for Clinical Laboratory Standards will be meeting jointly, their board of directors and our board of directors, on Monday, and looking for new ways that we might work together for better clinical laboratory standards. We also have, I believe, a very good relationship with the College of American Pathologists. We are discussing with them another joint conference. We had one last year on the area of the drinking driver, and we're now discussing another joint conference. We have a joint laboratory survey program in blood alcohol, and on Monday the board of directors will be considering a joint blood lead survey program. So I believe that we're beginning to work together with other organizations so that we can more effectively achieve common goals.
Now, at Sunday's Mixer, we also spoke with the president of the Canadian Society for Clinical Chemistry. He loves the Chicago area as a site and says he also likes the two associations' working relationship.
Absolutely. Needless to say, they're a much bigger organization than we are. We have done it previously when we've joined them on approximately 5 occasions. It has always been a great time, I think of mutual benefit to both the organizations. We learn from the Americans and hopefully they learn from us as well.
What do you think is the differences, I guess, between American clinical chemists and Canadians as far as the problems with which they have to deal?
As I see it, the problems with which we have to deal from a technical point of view are very, very similar. From the point of view of government funding, particularly for hospitals, they are different, but in many ways becoming very similar as time goes on. DRGs is something new to the American scene. It has, in fact, turned around, particularly in hospitals, what was before profit centers into cost centers. It's not new for us in Canada, in as much as all the hospitals have been working under a socialized system of medicine, government funded, and therefore that we've had to work with a global budget, which means that we get X number of dollars and we have to perform whatever tests are requested of us on that sum of money.
The Chicago 1986 show, as we previewed earlier, is expected to be one of the largest ever in association history. As far as the registration is concerned, Debbie Woodcock says that is right on schedule with the prediction.
We've had about 2,600 registered in advance, which is 17% up from last year, and so far our highest pre-registration in history. The number of exhibits, we're at 700 exhibits, and the total exhibit representatives that will be here will be somewhere between 3,500 and 3,700. We could have a convention of exhibitors alone if we wanted to at this meeting.
So that means then the whole, just give me your best guess as to what it would mean in terms of everybody together.
Total attendance broken down would be, we expect about 3,500 scientific registrants who will attend both the meeting and the exhibits. We expect another 3,500 exhibitors, and we expect another 3,500 to 4,000 local area residents to come in over the 3-day period to visit just the exhibits alone. 10 to 11,000 people. Yeah.
That's why you have the McCormick Center.
That's why, yes.
Yeah. Chicago as a site, is this a good, attracting place?
Oh, it's a wonderful place for this meeting. Chicago is a medical mecca, as is New York. High concentration of universities and hospitals, laboratories, and so forth. We did a mailing to approximately 40,000 people prior to this meeting and mailed them out an exhibit pass that entitled them to come in and see just the exhibits. And that's where we expect to get the 3,500 people. And incidentally, that's why our exhibit is so big, is because we put bodies on the floor, warm bodies that buy. We put consumers on the floor for these exhibitors. They know it, and they come back in bigger and bigger numbers every year.
And we'll be back in just a moment.
Diagnostics in 2386 AD.
What is your problem?
Pain.
Lift your polymer sheet and indicate area of pain. There's a lot of that going around. Enter your social security number, World Health Code, HMO election, your DRG cap, and take your shirt button out of my eye. Hold your breath. I am processing. I have processed. Your diagnosis is acute gastricolonic hypersomatization complicated by ethanol. I will cure you.
Gee, thanks.
Have a nice day.
Well, maybe that's the humorous state of the future. But the state-of-the-art of today's diagnostics is here at Hoffman-LaRoche. 7 decades of worldwide effort by this research-driven company have created a world class of excellence. Pharmaceutical products, vitamins and nutritionals, animal health products, fine chemicals, the standards. And today, when technology, change, and cost containment are the watchwords, we find Roche Diagnostic Systems on the leading edge. Instruments, reagents, technical support. Cost-effective systems which continue to lead the way. Come see us at the Roche Diagnostics booth. See the leading edge in cancer detection, CEA Roche. the original and still the standard. The leading edge in drug of abuse screening, AbuScreen. The leading edge in therapeutic drug monitoring, Cobas Bio FP. Then see Cobas Mira, the chemistry analyzer. It is unquestionably at the far leading edge of the industry. And you can win one for your institution just by visiting our booth. Look for this sign.
I am waiting for you.
You know, while the professional workshops were the main attraction for most of the clinical chemists here in Chicago, there was some time for a little social gathering on Sunday at the Mixers Chicago Hilton. Association's general manager, Ron Wharton, was one of those mixing.
This is the fun part.
Yeah, I was going to say, Ron, do you think this is a continuation of some of the science, or is it a totally social, or what?
No, clinical chemists, like many scientists can't resist the opportunity to talk about their science. So even at a social occasion, you'll hear a lot of scientific discussions, and particularly at one like this, where it precedes the presentation of many new and important scientific events. At this meeting, and for the association's entire progress throughout the year, the important thing is we bring together the profession and the professional aspects of clinical chemistry with science and technology, and we put that together with the business. And that's why there are so many of the nation's large manufacturers present here, more this year in Chicago than ever before, and they bring to the association the same kind of thing they bring to this meeting. They bring stability, and they bring their industry and their talent, and the association is grateful for their presence here, but we're also grateful for their presence and their contributions to the association throughout the year.
Other social events like this one during the show?
Another real big one will be the President's reception, so considerably more formal than this one, and it honors the past presidents of the association. It'll be a little larger affair and more formal, as I said.
Now, the first official ceremony at the 38th annual meeting of the American Association for Clinical Chemistry was Monday morning at the awards presentation at McCormick Place. The recipients, Dr. Burtis from the United States and Dr. Gold from Canada.
It's really a very good feeling because, as you know, in science, as in anything else, there's usually three stages. There's a stage where someone says if it's new, it's not true, and then if it's true, then it probably isn't important, and then if it is true and it is important, then we do it all the time. And then there's the fourth stage, I think, where someone says, hey, thank you very much, and this is the nice part of it.
This is certainly the fourth stage.
I think so.
What basically is the nature of this award?
Well, I think that it's in recognition of people who have contributed to the field of clinical chemistry, which is really the laboratory support service for what doctors do at the bedside and in their offices, and effectively make such a difference to how quickly and how well we diagnose problems.
And you are the Canadian recipient this year. Of course, Dr. Burtis was the American recipient this year. Had you met each other before? Did you know each other?
No, I knew of him, and I'm delighted to be able to share it in the same year that he's received it.
I was completely surprised when I received the phone call last spring and was told about it.
Okay. So, I mean, but today, of course, you knew what was coming.
I knew it was coming. I had enough time to worry about it.
Exactly what does it mean to a person in your position?
I think it's the honor of being recognized by your peers and your friends and colleagues in the fields you work with. It's a high honor.
And when we come back, we'll take you directly to the Communications Nerve Center for this 1986 show. Stay tuned.
We're speaking with Mr. Steve Wasserman, the Vice President of Marketing for Technicon Instruments Corporation. And Mr. Wasserman, can you tell us about the new products at the Technicon exhibit this year?
I'll be glad to. But first I should point out that we have booths in 3 areas. One is here in the spot exhibit, booth S22, where we are showing the Technicon RA500, which is a random access chemistry system for physician or group practice offices which can produce results while the patient is still in the office. Technicon Diagnostics has a separate booth, number 847, where we feature Technicon reagents for non-Technicon instruments such as the Astra, Cobas Bio, Gemini, and Hitachi 705. And last, but certainly not least, is the main Technicon booth where our new chemistry and hematology systems are being demonstrated. The RAXT system is being shown for the first time at this year's AACC meeting. Come into the booth for a demonstration to see how easy it is to use the RAXT. The Chem1 capsule chemistry system is designed with new technology, added flexibility, and unmatched simplicity. And for high-volume chemistry testing, the Technicon SRA 2000 will give you increased productivity and the lowest cost of operation. The Technicon H1 system has made quite an impact on the market. The H1 is the only system that can do a CBC plus a 5-part differential. This year, Technicon is showing products for laboratories of all sizes and with varied interests. Come in and see what we have in all 3 Technicon booths.
With nearly 11,000 participants expected for this year's convention, and almost a third of them coming from the Chicago area, you might expect there be some local, if not national, coverage of the show. Well, the convention planners are ready for any eventuality.
We have a press room every year at the national meeting, and we don't have press rooms at our other meetings, which are smaller, but we have specific information and registration procedures for press people. We get at a national meeting anywhere from 50 to 70 representatives of the press, most of them from scientific and health-related journals, some of them from general consumer publications and newspapers, and usually local media from whatever the locale of the meeting is. And these people need someplace to go and get organized. We need to register them separately. We have information that's specifically for press people, information on the association and the meeting in particular that's there for them. And we handle the press registration in the press room because it's complimentary for press people to attend the scientific portions of the meeting.
Well, that does wrap it up for our first day's coverage of the joint meeting here in Chicago, Illinois for 1986. We, of course, will be back tomorrow with all the significant events. And if you need to know exactly what's going on ahead of time, stay tuned on this station, and we will have a calendar of events listed. I'm Kurt Anderson. Have a pleasant day.
The American Association for Clinical Chemistry and the Canadian Society of Clinical Chemists Convention News has been brought to you by Roche Diagnostic Systems, Technicon Instruments Corporation, the DuPont Company, and by Beckman Instruments Incorporated. This program was produced by CNNTV.